Okay, welcome to Mental Load Month. I'm chatting with Debbie Klemptner. Debbie, do you want to just tell us a bit about what you do and then we'll get onto the topic?
Sure. So my name is Debbie Klemptner, as Emily said, and I'm here in the United States, but I am an online, so coach virtually. I coach health, nutrition. I also teach yoga, Pilates, and meditation. So that is a little bit of my background, my training, all my certifications, and where my focus lies is helping women like you, all women, primarily over 40, but kind of muddling our way through the weeds of perimenopause, of menopause, of life as it changes, and just helping them to learn to prioritize themselves, to really dig into their self-care, to find ways to eat and move and live and think, with clarity, with calm, and just really embrace life as it's coming, and find really simple yet effective ways to take on these changes. And of course, nutrition, movement, exercise, weight loss, that's all a byproduct of of the process.
Awesome. So mental load, I mean, you just alluded to helping women, get back into control of their life and stuff like that. And mental load is such a big one for us feeling out of control, isn't it? Because we kind of, we're there thinking, oh yes, got to get a present for such and such a birthday party, got to get toothpaste, must remember to do that. And then all the stuff from work. I mean, where do we start getting back control with that?
Well, we start with papers. Yeah. So like you said, I mean, life can seem out of control and overwhelming and stressful and, anxiety provoking, all of those things, because we have so many things to do. And so many of those things are things that we, of course, there are things that we have to do that others expect from us. And then we have, our own pressures that we put on ourselves, and all of that, families, friends, work, life, all of that put together just creates a tremendous mental load. So the first thing that I've been doing this for over a year now, and it's entirely helpful, and it can seem a little overwhelming at first, but I'll talk about a couple of ways that you can make it a little less so. But it's just doing a brain dump. So once a week, I sit down. I like Sundays because Sundays to me is, Monday's coming, so you got to get ready for what the week is going to throw at you. So I just sit down, do not disturb on everything. Do not disturb on the door. Do not disturb on the phone. Do not disturb on all the electronics. Do not disturb on your life and your people. Just no distractions. And so you want to have like that right environment that feels, a little bit calm to you. And then you just have to sit down and you write down all the things, like literally everything that you have to do for the entire week. So it can be big things, little things, appointments, commitments, things that you want to do, things that you have to do, things that you should do, all of the things, like literally everything, and just like dump it. You don't have to write a schedule. You don't have to say what day you're doing it. Just make a list. And from there, you want to then break it down a little bit. But the brain dump, just actually writing everything down, like that's number one, instrumental. And then from there, you can take the little chunks. Just how are you going to plan and attack each day? And you want to schedule everything. And it sounds totally ridiculous that, you want to schedule, I don't want to say every minute of your day, but when you schedule all of the things that are either have to's or want to's, you're going to actually create more time for yourself. So that takes some of the mental load off, because you're taking one time and you're kind of word vomiting it all on your paper and creating your schedule. And the truth of the matter is that it can seem like a lot, but when you schedule, and if you schedule something to take 30 minutes, it'll take 30 minutes. If you schedule something to take 2 hours, it'll take 2 hours. So if you have something and you're like, yeah, I've got 20 minutes to do it, you're going to do it in 20 minutes. You're going to get it done. So it is creating that more time, that more space for yourself. And you know, where I talk about this could seem a little overwhelming at first, especially if you've never done it. It's because, you know, our brains are designed, they're not designed for this. They're not designed for organization. They're not designed for efficiency. They're really designed to seek pleasure and rest. So when you get that resistance, like, you know, ugh, this sounds terrible. That's okay. That's normal. That's correct. Everything's working. But the idea is you have to just like feel that resistance and then do it anyway. That's the fun part.
What I'm thinking immediately as you're talking about this is I'm thinking, it's an opportunity for colourful pens, and therefore suddenly it becomes a much nicer task.
Yeah. I mean, that's what I say, create your environment. You know, think about something that's going to make it a little bit more desirable. Maybe music, you know, maybe colorful pens, whatever it is. But you know, maybe you have a super fun planner that you love to write in, like anything that's going to make it better. But yeah, it's not going to feel comfortable, and it's okay. You got to lean into that. So again, if that feels too overwhelming, you can always take it one night at a time. So you can do a brain dump every single night, like before you go to bed, write down all the things and then plan your next day. So it doesn't have to be the week. It can be those little baby steps. I'm a big fan of baby steps. So yeah, you just want to start with like your most important priorities. And so maybe your most important priorities are your personal activities. Maybe it's not the things that you have to do for work, because those are going to get done. You know that. Yeah. And if they don't, they go on the list for the next day, right? But yeah, so it's important to figure out and build your life and build your schedule around what's important to you. So that kind of leads into the next thing to help to lighten the mental load. So the brain dump, that's, you know, if you guys have any questions about that, like feel free to hit me up, you know, write a comment, find me on the social media and send me a friend request. We can talk. But yeah, so the next thing in terms of, you know, what's important to you and making time for what's important to you is setting boundaries.
Yeah.
And saying no. That is definitely, it can seem, another thing that can seem really uncomfortable and really hard to do. But when you set boundaries, you are really protecting what's important to you. And when you're saying no to something, you are creating more time and more space and more energy in your life to say yes to the things that are important to you. Yeah. So, you know, in setting those boundaries, sometimes, you know, a good first step is to just really sit down and say, like, what is important to me? What are my priorities? What are my values? And, you know, maybe, you know, top priority is family. Maybe there's a priority of having some fun. Maybe a priority is, you know, just really feeling good, having energy every day. Maybe a priority is, you know, doing well, excelling at work, like whatever your priorities are, like no judgment, they're yours. Like that's you, whatever is important to you, write those down. And then, you know, take a look at where you're spending your time. You know, when you're doing that brain dump, kind of go back and think like, okay, these are the things that's important to me. Am I creating that time and space in my schedule, in my life for those things? And a question that I really, well, it's a few questions, but they're kind of all the same question. A question that I ask myself a lot, and it sort of takes a little bit of, it lightens the mental load a little bit, because I just say, does this, whatever this is, whatever the thing is, does this support the person that I'm becoming? Or does this support my goals? Or does this support what I'm trying to do? Does this support what I'm trying to accomplish? And, you know, when you just ask yourself that question, you know, you're going to get like a yes or a no.
Yeah. And it's amazing how we acquire so many things that don't fit in with that. And,
right.
And actually, exactly as you're saying, you know, starting to say no to things that don't fit in with what is right for you. God, it frees up so much mental space, doesn't it?
Yes. physical space, mental space, all the space. I mean, it really does. And then you think, we, not all, I shouldn't say all of us, but a lot of us have this, this fear, this kind of this people pleasing mode. And we're, a little bit afraid to say no to things or to people that we care about or people that we don't care about. We're still scared to say no. But the reality is that they would say no to you like that. And if something's important to somebody else, they're going to say no. And the second part of that is if something's important to you and that person is, an understanding and caring individual, especially if it's somebody in your life that cares about you, they want you to do the things that are important to you. They want you to stand up for your values and your priorities, and they will respect that. And it's, you're making assumptions, I guess. You're making assumptions that they're going to think it's bad or wrong, or they're going to be mad at you. And in reality, they just maybe don't even have a clue that that is something that, you don't really want to do, or that you really do want to do.
And I think a lot of us, having, spent years being a people pleaser, we feel that this saying no to somebody is going to, basically the world's going to end, isn't it? Because we've said no, and everyone's going to hate us, it's going to be terrible, and the world will end. And then you start saying no, and you're like, oh, hold on a second, nothing bad happened.
Yeah,
this is pretty cool. Nothing bad happened, and actually I feel better, so some good stuff happened.
Yeah.
Oh.
And when you feel better, guess what happens? Everyone around you also, everything is energy. Everyone around you, everything around you, it changes.
Yeah, absolutely.
For sure. So yeah, those are the first two things. I got a couple more up my sleeve. So the third one, I mean, they all really tie together. It could all be one big thing, but the third one is just really planning and preparing. So of course, the brain dump is hugely part of the planning. But then, like I said, you have to take the brain dump one step further, and you actually have to, schedule your life a little bit. And then prepping goes hand in hand with that, because we've all heard the saying, and if you haven't, I don't know, when you fail to plan, you plan to fail. So, planning can seem like, we talk about scheduling all your time. It can seem like kind of a drag, and, does that take away spontaneity? A little bit, but like I said, when you really plan and schedule, you create more time in your day. So you are going to have more time to do maybe something that's fun, something that lights your fire. But so planning and creating that schedule and just having things laid out for yourself. So we're talking like not just like the things you have to do, but now we're talking nuts and bolts. We're talking about meal planning. And it doesn't have to be super like on Monday, I'm having this, on Tuesday, I'm having that. It can be, but it can also be like, here's the things we want to have this week. So this is what I need to buy in the grocery store. And then when you have that all ready for you and things are prepped, again, it creates more time, it creates more space in your day and in your life. And it also, this is my favorite one, it boosts your focus, and it's going to boost your productivity, and it cuts through all of the noise. And when you cut through all of the noise, this is the part that's my favorite, because this is one that I have struggled with a lot. It eliminates decision fatigue.
Whoa, that's big.
Yeah. Because I don't know about you, but if you're like me, making decisions wears me out completely. Like,
this is why mental load is such a big topic, is because we have such a lot going on, and then we have to carry on decision making. And frankly, half of us don't know why we even got out of bed this morning, let alone what we want for breakfast. God, far too much like hard work.
Right. So if you've already taken the time and you did the work, like you already decided, like, these are my breakfasts for the week, this is what we're having for lunch, and this is what we're having for dinner. I've already bought the stuff. It's already prepped and it's planned. And of course you can pivot, you can change your mind, but the stuff is there. And same with exercise. Like, I don't know, like, unless you're, unless you're training for something and you have a very specific schedule, or you're working with a trainer or with a coach, like you could like get up every day and be like, okay, I know I have to move. It's sunny out. Should I walk? Should I run? Should I ride my bike? Maybe I should lift weights. Like, that's a lot of decisions to make.
Yeah.
And then you know what? You're tired, and then you're like, screw it. I'm not doing any of it. I'm just gonna sit. So again, you can, like I said, you can plan your meals. You can plan your exercise. Well, on Monday, I'm going to do this. On Wednesday, I'm going to do this. On Friday, I'm going to do this. Then I'm going to take deliberate days of rest. And yes, can you change your mind? Of course. But again, it's already out there. You treat it like it's an appointment with yourself, and then you don't cancel on yourself. That's the most important thing. So, you know, it just, yeah, when you eliminate that decision fatigue, it's huge. I mean, there are days where I'm like, I'm so exhausted because I can't make another choice.
Yeah, I know what you mean. And I thought I'm totally with you on this. I'm guilty of not doing it all the time, but I'm totally with you on this. And a few years ago, my partner and I, we were both training for an Ironman triathlon, and we were both working and all the rest. And so we got into the habit that on a Sunday evening, I literally printed off week planners. And on a Sunday evening, we would sit down and be like, right, when are you doing your long run? You're doing it that day. When am I doing my long bike? I'm doing it that day. So we'd fit all the training in. Then we'd fit in meetings that we had, and we'd fit in who was walking the dogs, who was doing, you know, who was going to run with a dog that day so that the other dogs didn't need that, you know, whatever. And then it'd be like, right, okay, well, what meals are we having when? Who's cooking when? And the first few weeks, like you're saying, it felt like a really big task. And after a while, it just became part of Sunday, you know. Yeah. And we would just, on a Sunday evening, we would pop out this, we lived in a little village, and we lived very close to the little local pub. We'd pop over to the local pub, we'd take our planner. So we were out of the house, and it's that setting the place, isn't it? And for us, that worked. Rather than sitting in the house where everything was too much. There was stuff everywhere. We took ourselves out of the house, and that was just our Sunday evening routine. And so everything you've said, I'm like, God, I used to really like doing that. I'd forgotten. I've stopped doing it.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I love hearing that. But it's interesting because you talked about like how then you created that habit. Like it seemed impossible and really unpleasant at first, but you just do it and you get into that routine, you create the habit. And that's something that we do, you know, in the program when I coach, you know, my ladies. Habit forming, habit building, habit stacking, all the habits, all the things, and just making things routine and becoming, you know, that's another way to really lighten your mental load, is to have something that at some point becomes second nature, and you're not having to make those decisions, because really the more decisions you have to make, the more it impacts like your ability to make more decisions. Like you just get weary, and it creates that overwhelm, it creates anxiety, and it creates stress. And that's exactly what we're trying to alleviate. But it was interesting. You said something that made me kind of like, whew. You talked about how you had all these, like you were training and who's walking the dogs and who, so it made me think about like when you're really busy, like when you have a lot going on with your family, with your work, with your, you know, your personal life and your hobbies, you want to, you know, that's a reason to want to schedule. But then it took me to like the opposite, where I'm still busy, but like I'm empty. I'm an empty nester now. My kids are both grown and flown. And so I have, and then I do some things in person, but I do most of my coaching is virtual. So I do have a lot of flexibility in my schedule. And then there are some days where I'm just like, what should I do? You know? And so that's like a little overwhelming too. And that's where I'm like, okay, so, you know, this really works. I guess my point is it works for everybody. It's necessary for everybody. Like you need this if you're really busy, but you also need this if you're like not so busy. You need to maybe create a little structure in your life so like you can get stuff done. You can have all the time in the world and literally still get nothing done.
Oh God, totally guilty of that. Totally guilty of that. When I'm really busy, everything gets done. The to-do list, I just fly through it. When I'm less busy, I'm like, well, I mean, I could just go and wander around the garden, or what shall I do now?
I guess, like I said, if you give yourself 20 minutes to do something, it'll take 20 minutes. If you give yourself the whole day, guess what?
Takes the whole day.
The whole day.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that is for sure. So yeah, so I mean, just lightening that load, that mental load, getting rid of that decision fatigue, you know, with not just your brain dump, not just your scheduling, but actually getting a little bit specific about, you know, meal planning, meal prepping. And like I said, even scheduling movement. And it doesn't have to be torture movement. It can be joyful movement. We love that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. And then the last thing is, so I guess I don't want to say it's more practical. These are all really practical in my opinion, but is just breathing. Yeah. So, you know, you can use the fancy word, you can say breath work, or you can say breathing exercises, but truthfully, just slowing down and taking a breath. And the reason you're thinking, okay, well, that can physically calm you down, of course. But when you are physically calm, what else is happening? You're creating that mental and emotional calm as well. So when we intentionally change the rhythm of our breath, it signals relaxation. So it slows down your heart rate. Like I'm even talking slower, just talking about it. It slows down your heart rate, and that stimulates your vagus nerve. And, you know, when the vagus nerve, that's what ties into, you know, your parasympathetic nervous system. And I'll talk about that in a second. But it's the same as any other, you know, mind body modality like yoga, like meditation. But it's really kind of the quickest and the easiest and the most accessible hack to, you know, creating that little bit of calm or that little bit of grounding or balance or energy or whatever it is. It helps you, you know, be present, helps you quiet your mind. It can help you improve your mood and, of course, reduce the tension. And that's physical tension, mental tension, and of course, mental load. So you're basically just sending a message to your brain to just chill out, just chill. And then your brain sends this message to the rest of your body. And again, that just creates so much space for you here, you know, and here. And then, like I said, everything is energy. So when you create that space here and all around, you're doing yourself a great big favor. So yeah, so there are tons of different breathing exercises that you can do. And I'll just share one that's just the 4-7-8 breathing. That's like a really, I think people know this one, but it's simply, you know, sitting or standing. And that's what's cool about, you know, breath work, is that you don't have to like be anywhere special or do anything special or wear anything special. And it doesn't even have to take more than a minute, you know, just to kind of like ground yourself. So yeah, sit, stand, whatever you're doing. And you just want to take a nice deep inhale through your nose for about 4 counts. And then you hold it, not like hold your breath, but like, you know, just hold in that pause for about 7 counts. And then gently, you know, exhale out by your mouth for about 8 counts. So that sometimes, especially if you've never practiced any breath work or breathing exercises or any kind of breath retention, that can feel a little bit overwhelming or scary or hard, like the holding your breath and then going longer. So sometimes, and this is another great, I'm going to say a hack. This is just easy.
I've just let a dog in, sorry.
Oh, of course.
He's going to start barking.
No problem. You just want to breathe in through your nose for just pick a random number. Like it can be 2 counts or 3 counts, like nothing overwhelming. You know, breathe in through your nose, take a nice big inhale through your nose for a couple counts. And then a nice exhale out by your mouth, just extending it longer than your inhale. So if you inhale for 2 or 3, you want to exhale for, 4, 5, or 6. And just breathing in that way, again, like it's sending that signal to the vagus nerve, which then is stimulating that parasympathetic nervous system, which is your rest and digest and restore and relax, and all the R's, revitalize, recharge, like all of those good, the good R's. And at the same time that it's stimulating that, it's turning down the noise. It's turning down your sympathetic nervous system, which is your fight or flight. And that's where the panic and the overwhelm and the anxiety and all of those things come in. So that is just like the simplest, quickest way. It requires nothing but, you know, your lungs and your brain to kind of hack into that calm and that relaxation. So yeah, so I do have a couple of things for you ladies who've watched. I have a guide to breathing exercises that will help you to combat and take care of, beat the stress and the overwhelm and the anxiety. So that's one of the things you can grab. And I also have a meal prepping and planning guide that also will help you to create more time and more space and less mental load in your day and your life.
Cool. And I will put those on the website with this video. So anybody who wants to access them can get to them. Debbie, that's been brilliant. Thank you so much.
Thank you. It's been so much fun. I absolutely love. So before I was a health and nutrition coach and a yoga teacher and all the things, I was a teacher. I was a preschool teacher. I love teaching. I love sharing. And it is my great pleasure and honor to hopefully help you guys can find that calm, that space, that ability to breathe, that energy, and all of those things in your life.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Debbie.
Yeah, thank you.